All right, we're going.
From Lamar. That's what I thought. I want to make.
I didn't know that everybody got that.
Everybody in the board got it.
Are we good? Okay. All right, I'm gonna call this meeting of the ECS Board of Trustees to order. We'll start with the roll call. I will just go around the room here. So we have Tiffany Menez, Matt Anacita, Kristen Long, Stan O'Loughlin, Jill Serrata, Megan Leach, Rohit Acharya, and Adam Tobias. And is there anyone on the Zoom?
I don't see anybody on
I
that.
don't see anybody. Yeah.
Okay. I do think we will have a couple other board members joining us on Zoom. Nick Unkovic is in California for work, but he's going to log in at 7. And heard from a couple other people that cannot make it. I did not. Do you think you can set it up? Okay. Okay, so we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The mission of ECS is to educate each student to high academic standards using innovative curricula that will foster knowledge, love of, and respect for the environment and preserve it for future generations. We grow citizens. Our vision, every ECS graduate will be an actively engaged citizen driving thoughtful change in the world around them. All right, I'm gonna come over here for the next thing. Something that we are trying to do a little bit more on the board this year is recognize our successes and wins and great things happening in the ECS community. Tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome and recognize the ECS Girls Varsity Volleyball team. I think we have most, but not all the members of the team. But this was the first year that the team competed in the SWPAA League. But this is also ECS's very first girls varsity sport, so very exciting. As pioneers of girls varsity sports at ECS, and with the expertise and support of their amazing coaches, Hannah Berg and assistant coach Amanda McAllen, the team has some notable accomplishments. Throughout the season, the team practiced, improved, and competed in at least 9 matches against rival schools. They hosted 4 matches at their home court at the All-American Fieldhouse, court number 4. We had 1 player make the All-Star team for the league. One player who has made 25 serves in a row over the net in practice. So congratulations on okay, at this time I think maybe you guys have something you want to see.
We're just gonna line up and say hey, our names and.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
say hey. We don't have to get off before. We just start. I'm Coach Hannah. It was just a really big honor to coach everybody. We've had our band good. I've said my wonderful words to you guys. Actually, you guys sang. Sorry. But they really improved so much. I'm really, really excited for next year because we'll have rising seniors in our team. This year we only had some players. And I just think next year is going to be awesome. And I'm just glad that we had the opportunity to start the varsity team. Also, a huge shout out to Coach Rock and coordinate all of those games, all of the transportation. To prepare a little, like something they like about volleyball, something they really care about, and just tell you who they are. So,
hi, I'm Myra. I'm in 9th grade, and the weird thing about volleyball is probably like the community. Like the team is very supportive. Even if we mess up, it's okay.
I'm Samia, I'm in 11th grade, and my favorite volleyball was state, connected with my teammates.
My name is Sarah, I'm in 11th grade, and I really like to call from Sunday. My name is Nevaeh, I'm in 10th grade, and my favorite thing about volleyball was how pretty it was, and rocky. It makes you feel better on a bad day, or maybe you weren't all in that pool, you'd be all in the game.
My name is Gabby, I'm in 10th grade, and I think the best thing about volleyball is the experience and improvement and the connection with everybody and people. My name is Taylor, I'm in 11th grade, and I always say the same thing, and also traveling, because we also go to so many different places that are fun.
I'm totally in 11th grade. I think I like being, volleyball, being able to form a strong, really being strong team on the offense, covering each other.
Hey, I'm Neil, I'm in 11th grade, and volleyball is really important to me because, I have two members who are all about sports, and I also do volleyball in my earlier years, so it's, nice to do those moments again. And I also like the bond of, creating between the teams. So,
Great, well, let me have you guys stay up here for a second. I want to thank you for coming. I appreciate it on a school night. I know that, or I understand that you already got certificates at your volleyball banquet, but I want to present you with an additional certificate on behalf of the board. So when I say your name, I guess you can come here. So,
It was really fun meeting. We only had 5 kids sign up for tonight, and then during the day, they were all like, we want to be there. So they all mentioned how much they really felt like they built a team this year, and I feel like the fact that we almost doubled the number of people who ended up coming to staying after school, we hung out in the park, we had some pizza, but it is a commitment to stay after school for all the volleyball games and to be here tonight as well, so thank you guys so much.
I would like, if I can, just to say a couple of words I wasn't planning on, but after listening to the girls. I think that's why we're here, that's why we're doing it, to build community, to build camaraderie. We came a long way where you had to stop every time for a ball that would hit the ceiling, from actually getting the ball over the net, hitting the ball right, getting the service over. Coach Hannah put a lot of time in, Coach McCallum put a lot of time in, but I'm really thankful for all these girls for always showing. We went up to Calvary Chapel, it was an hour and a half. Everybody was there. The commitment we made, I was worried that we wouldn't have enough kids to participate. We add kids, and I want to thank you. Besides the one trip, and you guys are still in, and laughing at what's the longest band like ever. But I appreciate all you've done. I'm looking forward to this season, and I want to thank you for representing the school, representing your families, yourself. well, and I'm proud to be part of this group. Thank you.
So we're.
I'll take it. One, two, three. Lots of extra. All
Oh, thank you. I tried.
Did I tell you that my mother-in-law came and spoke at Career Day? My mother-in-law came and spoke at Career Day. Yeah. She came as to the middle school. She actually went to another high school out here. She said she got so many more questions from ECS than at Avonworth High School. She's like, they didn't ask a single question. I was like, they were really dull over that. She said the school here was really good about asking questions. Spirited fun.
So you guys are welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, or you want to, if you're outside.
Oh, yeah, health and safety plan.
Okay, so, anyone sign up for public comment? No? Okay, if you do, we'll come back to that. Okay, I'm gonna just jump ahead, into the agenda here. So we're gonna go to the ECSFT representative.
Hi, I'm Hannah Burke. I'm the ECSFT representative. We have a quick statement today. The ECSFT would like to thank the PCO for gifts on Valentine's Day. And change of topic, but in light of all of our new board members, the ECSFT Executive Committee would like to bring our commitment to being collaborative partners and problem solvers with the board, PCO, and administration. You can contact any union reps directly or via our email at ecs.union@gmail.com. We have been noticing and are appreciative of the board's involvement at ECS events and always welcome you into our communities to see the great work we're doing at all levels, volleyball, high school, anywhere. We have one item for the board's consideration. We know that there has been a national teacher shortage, and we're thinking about the last 2 years of teacher retention, and are hopeful that we can work with the office and the board to make sure that teachers and teacher voice are heard as we approach the summer next year.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items they want to extract from that? Okay, seeing none, we will go to resolution 2024-2-2114, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the school that the consent agenda for February 21st, 2024 be approved. Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Looks like David also.
Oh.
And any opposed? Okay, the resolution passes. And we'll do some board education now. You want to start with the middle school?
So I wanted if with the chair's permission, we could reverse the order.
Sure.
Just makes more sense for boards.
Yep.
All see that, but I get you mid-mouthful.
Strictly John.
Oh, I do want to say one thing that I warned our executive team about this week is that we have a lot of things on the agenda tonight, and so I will be cutting people off to give us a schedule. So
We're never, right.
that was for
I won't, I'm not, certainly not gonna go on, too much on this. I'll go pass this around, John, and we print it. Just as a reference, John and I met last week. We talked a little bit more about some of the policy process that we've been discussing and kind of hammered out some of the details. And the summary is that, we want to continue to do it somewhat the way that we have been doing it with a few tweaks. With the main process essentially being that policies will be any policy that's under consideration will be placed on a public-facing website in a folder as a proposed, either amended policy, if it's a policy that where there are amendments that are being proposed, or if it's a new policy, or if it's just an old policy that we haven't reviewed yet, where there are no sort of proposed amendments that are being proposed by the school office that's in charge with implementing it, but that we're just going to review it. So those will be, there'll be a few that will be placed in a folder, and we'll be given notice that these are policies that are under review. The public can review them as well. They'll be in this public-facing folder, denominated as proposed amendments or policies under review. They'll 10 days. That'll be 10 days before the board meeting, which then we'll have a discussion about the policy if anybody has comments or about the policy or any amendments to the policy, proposed amendments, and then it'll be effectively tabled until the following board meeting, typically, where we would then vote on it. And during that entire time, it will remain in this folder. And after that time, we'll vote on it, and the new version will be put up on the website, basically. Did I miss anything, John, on that particular piece?
Know that the process itself will be sort of codified on this document, which will be shared with the board in about a week. So we'll do that at our next executive committee meeting in a few weeks, and ultimately exercise that next week.
And the reason that thanks, John. The reason I shared this is just it's sort of getting into the details of sort of how we maybe to lay out the policies, because right now, as you probably are aware, there's sort of a hodgepodge of PDF documents in various formats. And what I've shared here is this is fairly typical, but this is from North Allegheny. And the way that their policies are organized, it's in HTML format. So it's not like a linked PDF. It's easy to keep updated. It's kind of a clean look. This is sort of what I suggested to John is what I think, we ought to be looking at something more like, not this exact thing, but a lot more like this, where it's, again, it's not it doesn't link to a PDF. It's just on the website. It shows you what the current policies are. It's obviously easier to show you if I showed you online, but you kind of get the idea. And then with the header, something similar to this, although it could be simplified a little bit, and we would add revision dates. Each policy would have this number, have its title, have the date of adoption, the date of any revisions, kind of just make it a lot cleaner. And one of the other things is, and this is a little more complicated, but probably only of interest to me and maybe Dave, maybe a few other people, but to add some cross references for where there are legal underpinnings to the policies, because I think it's very difficult to review a policy and you say like, oh, this is weird language, or I don't like this policy on homeless students, and then somebody has to go and tell you, especially if you do after the fact, like your lawyers say, like, you guys shouldn't have changed that policy because that was a legal requirement. You want to have, it's a lot of work, and we could probably have our firm help us, but put some of these cross references into the policy. So that's kind of where we are in the process. Is that short enough?
You're about to get the music played.
Yeah.
I'm going to play you off. Well, thank you. This is a lot of work. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, this one. Just print this, but yeah.
Main content.
So I'm up next to
Appreciate
data dashboard, so I know the other thing that we've been talking about is trying to figure out for the board's perspective, what information you want on the dashboard, what is helpful for you, high level as well as for the education committee, what kind of academic data they need. So in front of you, is 3 different documents. One is just the one that the ECS metrics on it. This would be what we would consider that more of a monthly dashboard that can be part of the packet of information that the board gets for the meeting. On top of it has measures of student success for our high school, think more about on track to graduate. So we can put in the number of students there that are on track to every grade level. And then the measure of 6 students grade at grade level, that's more of your proficiency level for academic data, really high level. And then the rest of it is really operational. So you've got student attendance, open positions, any sort of leaves that are posted or being filled. And then on the back, you also see some general practice or audits, or PD annual reports, inductions, and the charter renewal. So this would be that thing that if it's helpful for you to get monthly, we can put that in the packet, but if you give us some additional things that you might want, we're happy to add them. Or if this is kind of like on target, just let us know and we will populate it. One. So that's the operational side. And then the other side is really the academic data. And I know this month, the education committee got in a little bit deeper into academic data, and we also had a question about the K-12 schools report and some public-facing data, and what does that look like? And so the one that says PA Future Ready Index, this is a public-facing website. This is the document that the ECS is a high-level data. Anyone can search our organization and get this information, so I also wanted to make sure you had it. This is something that I can give to you as soon as it is done every year, so that would be more like summer, fall. And then I can also give you some math data 3 times a year. We do math, fall, spring, and winter. And that high-level data is this other packet here. And I can walk you through a little bit of that now. So I just wanted to give you kind of a walkthrough of what these 2 pieces were. So the PA Future Ready Index, this is the information from school year 22-23. So just kind of orient yourself a little bit to the data there. But it does have success proficiency in English language arts overall on the front page. And to give you a little bit of an indicator of how we are now, the math data is showing that overall in the school, we are at the 73rd percentile. So we are increasing in that. And it is red because we did not meet the statewide goal of 81%. But if you do notice, in that year, the statewide average was only 54%, and we are above the average. So we're not quite where we want to be, but we do have a higher than state average. On the back of that page is math and science. Math at that 22-23 school year was 46% proficiency. We're now at 59% proficiency overall. And for science, it's just 68, and we're in 78, so right about the same. One of the other things to note is that we are still above the statewide average for both of those items, math and science. And then the next actual indicators are PBOS growth. So also on there is going to be that we did meet the academic growth. So while we did not meet the actual achievement target for PSSAs in that year, we did make the growth gains in data, in math, and then exceeded the growth in biology, which is the next page. They also report out on things like percent advanced. They also do career benchmark standards, industry learning credentials. There's a lot of information in here. One of the things that gets pulled in that A+ schools report is the grade 3 reading. So it's an early indicator of success, and I know that that was one of the measures that was lower than we wanted it to be. So I did take a look at what the current 3rd grade are now, and then also our that cohort of students. That 22-23 cohort of students. So the A+ schools report told that 77% for reading is passing, and that very low cohort of students are our Black and Brown population, kind of 14% proficiency rating, which is not where we want it to be at all. Currently, it's that that particular grade level is 48% proficient in that subgroup. Again, it's not where we want it to be, but it is increasing quite significantly. So we are putting a lot more effort and attention into review data with teachers, looking at our subgroup populations, making sure that interventions are meeting kids where they are, also ramping up all of our kind of tier one instruction as well. So there's a lot of energy going into making sure that we are creating that we can get out there. And then in our math, seventh grade math, we're now at 52% instead of 22%. So that cohort is making that a great thing. And in our black and brown population, instead of 2.9%, it's 30%. So again, it's not something that we're ready to say, hey, we hit that mark or we're good where we are. It's more about let's invest more. What we're doing seems to be working a little bit, but we can always do more and increase the achievement of all of our students. So we are looking at things right now, like trying to figure out some additional tutoring and interventions for our third grade. Knowing that is that not that cohort, that grade level, that really does have some high impact. So if you can get reading gains in third grade, we're likely to have more gains in the future. So that high level data, that's how we use it as a school. So we look at that data from the PSSA globally. I look at it globally with my team, and then we start drilling down closer and closer to the student level, and when it gets to the teacher, they can tell you what students are in each one of those subgroups and how they're actually leading the needs of intervention, strategic intervention. So that.
The 22.4% was because it's last year. So the 50 number you're talking about is for current year.
It's that group of students, so the growth that we've seen in that group of students.
Oh, okay, that cohort.
Yeah, yeah. So I looked at two pieces of data. One was like to take the actual student cohort, and see where they are now, and then the grade level, where that particular grade level is now.
Okay.
I think that, and Jill and Amy talked to the education committee, and that is really important to say. It's not just third grade data, although it was schools and the SSA for full third grade. We saw something in that this particular group of third graders that we really needed to make sure we were intervening on. And so we want to follow that group of students to make sure that any targeted intervention is actually working.
Yeah.
So how did you identify what the issue was? And then what were some of the things that were in the position going to different?
That's a great question. So in our math data, that's this package here. This is also high level data. If you don't get the drill down per student, but one of the things that you can do is each individual student gets what's called a RIT score or RIT band. That's where they're kind of like ready to learn. And it gives you all the standards that the student has mastered and the standards that they are not quite there and ready to learn. And so the teachers group kids based on standards that are needed to be bolstered or added to what they're currently doing, and they have 30 minutes a day of reading time of reading or math, depending on what the student needs, really targeted on specific standards.
So for the grade 7, and just hopefully a quick question. The grade 7 was then the same test was re-given to this cohort later on.
This is PSSA.
Right, that's PSSA, right?
What the MAPS does is it gives you a projected proficiency on the PSSA.
Okay.
So what they're able to do is they say, if you reach a certain point in your MAPS score, you're more likely to pass.
There's a proxy that they,
So it's not the same exact.
Got it.
It's a projection. Okay. And then we also look, so that's individual student data, and we also need to look at our tier one, which are regular curriculum, right, for everyone. I'm reading right now, it's clearly a target for us, so we went through this whole year so far, and then we're continuing on an ELA program review, so they're going to look at, and they're right now looking at all the curriculum material, our instructional pedagogy, going to observe teachers, seeing if they're being effective, and we obviously need to make some changes.
Well, were there problems identified that went beyond classroom that may have contributed to that? And if so, is that, like, how is that being for the class?
So one of the things that has been a struggle for me too, and bringing data dashboards to the board, is that this is just a data point for kids, right? And we all know that kids are more than that. And so that's why we hold child meetings. So students, every every grade level has a full challenge with the counselors and with their academic team, and they look at individual students and say, well, this child might not be making growth in their academics. What are all the things? So they could be emotional, is it a bullying issue, is there something else that we can wrap our arms around so that we can then get to that picture. And I don't think we're there yet as far as dashboard to give you that piece of data, but know that we are looking at it.
So last point for the feedback for the metrics thing. Let's have historics so that we have benchmarks for what last year's was or maybe last year. It actually serves all of us well so that we don't know what's an actual aberration as a flipping point in time. So that would be the one thing I would add to this is if we can get previous year's data on top of this. Second thing is the high school graduation rates, as we don't have a high school class. Are we tracking? Do you have an approximation for how we're tracking in our 4-year cohort now?
Yeah, so right now we only have, I know the current seniors, they actually just looked at that. So of those students, there's, we are at 97% that's on the graduate who are seniors. So, and we're pretty confident in the rest of the folks. We're doing everything we can to make sure that every single one of our students graduate.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to continue with that.
That's good.
And then the other thing that we also have is our industry samples. We do have 27% of the seniors have started industry.
Okay. So that's going to be a number that's going to come out for the first time this year.
Yes,
Right.
right.
Yes.
So all of the data that's in the back of this, that's inflamed. We're going to be reporting on that for the first time. So we report out on our graduation rates in September. So they give you our September, October. They give some, students a little bit of leeway in order to be counted in the graduating class of last year. It's kind of interesting. So we do know that this is just academic data. There's also a lot of other data that goes into the picture of a child, which is why we asked the middle school grant update to come next, because some of the things that they're working on will hopefully help give us a picture of how kids are doing in a mission moment too, rather than just on standard achievement. So Vicky and Elvin. Welcome. Elvin Powers, our director of yeah, I'm just gonna say all the words.
Some of this might look familiar to you. I'm gonna review some of the things I went over in the board retreat, as well as the spring, long time ago, the spring board meeting where I talked about our environmental citizenship program and building coherence. But I bring this slide back because Mandy just talked about all of our academic achievement, and that's the satellite data. If you remember at the board retreat, we talked about growing citizens and progressive education and mission alignment, and how might we measure that? And so how do we measure what we value? Through performance-based assessments, scenario-based assessments. I'm going to talk through that a little bit. It does all connect to the grant, don't worry. But I like to tell a narrative, kind of give you the process and connect back to what you might already know, so it kind of paints that whole story for you. And you might not be able to cut us off because Alvin and I are both long-winded and very passionate, so.
Get the music.
Will not be very off the stage. So just a reminder, the student experience should reflect what we value, what we measure should reflect what we value, and what we invest in should reflect what we value. And so we are the innovation team, and so we're thinking about how to invest in innovation and progressive education, as well as growing environmental citizens. I'm trying to connect everything back to our strategic framework and those 3 focused initiatives of align our work, connect with people, and commit to the planet. And so some of what we will talk about and share aligns directly to that strategic framework around building coherence, increasing collective efficacy, and increased commitment to mission-aligned experiences. So again, I've shared this in the past, so I'm going to go through it pretty quickly because I actually want to give the floor to Elvin because he is brilliant, and I want to have him be able to share the work that he's been doing. So forgive me for going quickly, but you can have access to all these later on. because I know you like to pour over it before bed at night and read all the slides I did and all the research, but environmental citizen, just sharing. Last year in the spring, we were tasked with thinking about how to build coherence at our middle school around our mission around environmental citizenship. We kind of lost the plot at our middle school, and there was a call from families, as well as staff, as well as the board to increase academic rigor, enrichment, as well as the commitment to the mission. And so here's just a brief understanding around what we think environmental citizen is based on research, and what an environmental citizenship program can offer. And so it's really around experiential learning experiences, real world, field visits, guest speakers, where students are really learning by doing and creating artifacts and connecting with community. We also hope that the environmental citizenship program, mouthful, at the middle school would be an incubator space that was mission aligned and through innovation. Union feedback was peer-to-peer feedback. Union feedback was peer-to-peer professional development, the most powerful types of professional development, and we wanted to make sure that was embedded in this model. And we also wanted a space where we had a culture of learning, where experimentation and risk-taking and educating for sustainability was highlighted. So there's always challenges in creating new programming. So that was back in the spring, we did a lot of work in developing this new program. In the summer, we did a lot of hiring and onboarding, but we ran into some challenges, as we always run into challenges with building new programs. So onboarding new staff with teacher shortages, as well as a different approach to teaching was difficult. Funding that allows for risk-taking was another challenge, as well as just in general mindsets and buy-ins from educators and administrators around the connection between academic achievement, that might be traditional academic achievement, that's that satellite data, to non-traditional methods of teaching and learning that we believe wholeheartedly at ECS is important. The 21st century skill of the real world connection is crucial in growing citizens, not just that academic data. And so those are some of the challenges that we had. I like to approach a problem with curiosity, so we have a really great partnership with the ECS Foundation, and so that's kind of the work of the partnership between the school, especially the innovation team, as well as the ECS Foundation, because we were able to kind of tackle that problem in a number of ways and look at funding. And so this quote from Timothy Knowles from the Carnegie Foundation, I have shared this before, but this captures the theory behind the Richard King Mellon grant that we went for around experiential hands-on solving of real problems and applied work, and how that directly connects with increasing economic and social mobility of future graduates. So really thinking about that both and model, we can't just do, academic achievement is very important in a school, especially in a public school where we're bound to standardized tests, but it has to be a both and. You can't just choose an either or and just focus on academic achievement, because it also falls into student engagement as well as, so there's a lot of theory behind student engagement as well as academic achievement, and if you focus only on interventions and tutoring, then you will not fully get the academic identity that we want from our students to be able to get the academic achievement that we want. So there is a logic model that Nicole helped us put together around identifying that problem around student engagement, chronic absenteeism, and teacher burnout and shortage. And our theory with the Richard King Mellon grant was that the sole focus on content acquisition was not going to be the catch-all that increases our student achievement, especially with our historically marginalized students who are missing out on opportunities with 21st mindset and skill development around critical and creative thinking. There's a lot of research behind academic success in the long run for students after they graduate, and it is around those 21st century skills. And a lot of schools have been focusing more on traditional approaches to content acquisition because of the academic achievement and student engagement issues. But then you do not see that actual real world citizenship building that we need to come back to at ECS, because that's actually the real work of our mission. And so I'll let you read through that logic model, but I wanted to share the conditions for success for the grant. Richard King Mellon, I think we announced it that we received about 236, is that right? 236,000 for this. They were really interested in us specifically for the environmental reason, but also around our theory of academic achievement connected to that environmental experiential learning. But there were some conditions for success around this grant writing, and we're also looking at this Richard King Mellon grant process as a way to think about other grants and how the foundation works with the school. So for the ECS Foundation, the condition for success is Nicole had historic knowledge of ECS's mission, as well as understanding progressive education landscape. For grant writing, it is a new idea for taking taking a problem and approaching it with curiosity, and so it's been really helpful for Nicole to have that historic knowledge around the mission and environmental mission, but also keeping up to date with progressive education landscape. She's also supporting project management. This is a very large grant that we have a lot of accountability measures, and so she's, I don't know if you want to talk to her project management at all a bit, but she is, holding us to that, and we are using it as a model to think about how we might be able to look at other grants, opportunities, but also increasing increasing our standards for ourselves around holding ourselves accountable to data assessments and collaboration across our academic team as well as our innovation team. I do want to give a shout out to the middle school admin team. That's Nick Tudolo, Sarah Hall, and Lauren Lico. Because another condition for success is the trust that they have in the innovation team and the program development. And so Nick, when he started, he was very clear in his communication of his goals and his vision for the school. Reached out to his supporting teams and talked about what he would like to achieve, and then really put his trust into the foundation as well as myself and my team in thinking about programming that's going to support that. And I think that trust is very key in thinking about how to influence, but also kind of give up some control and allow for a team to test, because that's what innovation teams do, to test and develop a learning culture in collaboration with the middle school admin. And then the innovation team, I do want to highlight Elvin, who's here, Director of STEM. Then we also have Rachel Annette Peters, who is our enrichment coordinator, as well as Nita Wilson, who's our partnerships and program coordinator. We kind of have some key pieces around how we approach innovation. But the Richard King Mellon grant was able to help fund our innovation team. That has been pretty powerful because this is what it looks like in action. So part of the funding is supporting the environmental citizen course development, which is aligning our work across K-12. So that's STEM and thinking classrooms, connecting with people. So it's a lot of the work that Nita Wilson is doing around community partnerships and outdoor learning. So our Quest Lab intersections, if you want to take a look, it is on the back what it looks like. But that's a direct way for our students to build social capital with community and network and be powered with the plans that are for their high school careers. And then commitment to the planet. And this is Rachel Annette Peters is great in thinking about big ideas and the sustainable worldview and embedding that into all of our curriculum and programming. And she's really spearheading and leading our sustainable development goals and how to enrich not only our students, but our families and the community We also have a plug Green Roots, rebranded Earth Night, Sustainability Fair, and Sustainability Fest that we are having in May. That also shows how our commitment to the planet and mission is really being highlighted across the district. So that comes to our director of STEM, Elvin Tepra, who's doing a lot of the work around testing and iterating and thinking about some of the pieces around, if you look at the activities and processes section of the logic model, this is what Elvin has been really focusing his attention on. It feels like he's been here for years and years, I think it's how many days?
36.
36 days. But some of the focus of building an innovation team, as well as embedded professional development opportunities, and thinking about mission-based assessments.
So, Matt, I'm going to go back. You're about to learn the difference between the way Ricky does slides and the way I do slides. There's like no words or anything on my slides because I'm a talker. But first, I want to introduce myself to you all just formally. I just started in January. Before that, I was living in what I thought was a freezing cold DC, and then I moved to Pittsburgh. Not pleasantly surprised here. But it has been a fun process to come here, both learn the school and learn the area. My background is in both engineering, product design, and design thinking. Both my undergrad degree and graduate degree were followed through in that, and then I moved into the education space very early into that space, and have been like balancing the two until I decided that this is the space I wanted to be. And it really is part of my calling to think about how we think about learning in general, right? So in my time here, I've got this Venn diagram up here, because as Vicki and I have been thinking about what this position really needs to be to hit all of those points that you pointed out, I am helping, along with her and the innovation, to build this innovation team. And that has like 3 parts to it that are like have specific tasks underneath them. So one is like figuring out how we define an innovation team here at the school. I'll talk a little bit about that. The other one is about how we model practices and then refine those practices. And then the last one is continuing to reflect on those practices, but not just for ourselves as a team, for ourselves as a team in response to how we meet and grow students to do the same things in their lives. So let's talk a little bit about like team definitions. I think that's always helpful. Slide. Teachers in schools and places where I've worked as well always have to balance 2 things when they're a part of a teaching innovation team, right? One of those is teaching students to be innovators themselves, right? And we've all walked into the makerspace that has a 3D printer in every school saying we're doing innovation, but truly behind that are the mindsets, the abilities, the capabilities to become problem solvers, regardless of what tools you have in front of you. And that is something that our teachers are trying to instill, our EC teachers are trying to instill in our students every day, and we're thinking about how to do that with efficacy. And then the other thing that we hold as an innovation team is not just like transferring those innovative practices, but how do we innovate systems within the school to carry out these tasks? Because we know that that kind of learning that meets the students where they are in the changing world that they are walking into will not fit into current models as they currently stand. And so we think about how we innovate systems, our tools, our pedagogy to meet the changing needs of those students. And that can look in multiple different ways. One of the ways that we have brought in through the RKM is the embedded PD processes. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. We think about we've been talking about different ways of incubating innovation across the school. How do we spread our message? We have professional learning communities that we are using to build in the capacity in our teachers to do this kind of work in a distributed leadership way, rather than just, hey, we give you some tool and you take it into your classroom way. So, in 36 days, we have talked about all of this, and we started implementing some of those things in the spaces and processes and building up the work that Vicky, Nicole, and the rest of the team has done up until now. hop to the next
I
slide.
do have to say, this 36 days ago, we did have many conversations before the 36 days.
Before I do that, so with the modeling and refining, especially when we think about embedded PD, the model that or the way that we've decided to move forward with this is looking at how we get those practices into classrooms by putting someone or putting specifically myself as of right now and building in processes for how we grow our teachers through like that collaborative practice rather than just the I watched the observation, I watched and then I tell you what's next. Instead, I'm living this process specifically in our 8th grade space with our teachers. So that falls under a couple of different categories, including curriculum design, which is starting by thinking about how we get our kids authentically engaged in this work, not just compliantly engaged, they learn the content, but I actually have a stake in it. Living into that identity piece, living into that citizenship piece, living into this idea of buy-in into their learning. And so we are looking for more ways to create that thinking, participating, and relating as it comes to this idea of student engagement. What are we designing for, and are we actually seeing that appear from our students in the classroom? Which then moves us actually to the far end, which is the reflective model, which is an opportunity for our teachers not just to get through the lesson of their lesson plan, but we create spaces in that time to reflect on how well that went. What students are catching on, what students are latching on, what students need us to take that extra step to find a way to get them into those spaces. And that looks like post-class feedback. We're thinking about how might be questions. And then one big thing that we want to also think about now is that there are a lot of different ways to tell if a kid is doing well at math based on some standard level, or doing well on English or language arts based on some standard level. But it's harder to tell if a kid is building a citizenship muscle because it's so individual. So there are tried and true methods of interviewing, observation, and getting that feedback from students. But what does it look like to put a student into some sort of an assessment space, like a scenario-based assessment, where they get a chance to puzzle out some solution, and we figure out a way to think about how we use that as either a benchmark or an opportunity for growth or a connection with that student to see how they are moving on in that citizenship space. All currently experimental, but something that could really live and inform our courses. And then the last space that we go to is the co-teaching model. As we get new teachers in, and we're thinking about that pipeline of educators, we are thinking about their capabilities, but also their joy in the work and the job. We are embedding myself currently in the PD space in our 8th grade, where I teach with them, and then we teach together, and then they teach. Wherever they have questions / we see opportunities for growth, I'm in the space, living it with them and whisper coaching. And then we are also finding ways to send them out to their peers so that they know what's happening in other classrooms and seeing kids from whole perspectives, rather than just what do they look like in an ECA class. We want to send them out and to see if this kid is doing really well here, but not in English, what can we do to get those connections to happen, but also to learn from those teachers and add to their practice as well. And so all of this is the space we are talking about and how we want to grow and continue to add to it. And that's kind of the work that lives into the RKM. And the last thing that was on there was reflect on our practice. But all of that is just, there's no slide, but all of that is just the circular process of making sure that we are not just doing this as an art, but we're living into it as also a science, where we are making sure to capture that information and then see if this is actually working, right? And we have our professional learning community, as well as someone who recently joined our professional learning community in a research capacity to help us see how we are growing our environmental citizenship team and ourselves as an innovation team from that data-driven standpoint. That was my soapbox. I'm hopping off there.
Thank you. So, of course, Melvin is brilliant, that's why I want to give him the floor. So he is really operationalizing that instructional capacity and bringing kind of that excellence to our classrooms. I do want to say that with all of the assessment pieces, we are testing the graduate portrait and how do we assess for those pieces. as well as living into the adult portrait as well. And so, the strategic framework really names that grad portrait and adult portrait. And this is a really great opportunity to have the Richard King Mellon funding to be able to prototype and test this so that we can have some pilots of this and think about how it's scalable. And so that's, I think, what funding allows for, because we are very process-oriented on an innovation team, but also process over product is really important in growing citizens. And so this allows for us to be more process-oriented and to allow for us to slow down and think about reflection, because oftentimes schools are very product-oriented and as you know, we're held to standards around academic achievement, and this type of assessment, we aren't usually assessed by the state, with this type of work. And so the funding allows for us to focus our attention on the innovation, the progressive education, but also really that environmental mission.
We just have time for maybe one or two questions here.
Yeah, this is very impressive, and thank you so much for putting this together. Thank you for coming today to talk about this. Let's talk for assessment. What would be really helpful for me as a board member is a one-page document outlining what the RK Mellon grant was for, what the success criteria are for the RK Mellon grant, especially if there's anything outcomes that we need to do as a school to unlock any future funding, and strategically or for other funds or from RK Mellon. I think that way the board can then hold the school accountable to those outcomes. And then also line items of what you guys are doing separately as action items in relation to the grant. That way we can go advertise it once it's public, just by word of mouth, that we got a grant, this is what we're doing with it. Because right now, I think the majority of us are not educators, but we do appreciate everything that you guys are doing. But right now, it's not clear to me what the grant was for, what the success criteria are, not necessarily the conditions for success. I'm talking.
I think the logic model kind of lays that out, but in theory, we just had a meeting where we had some of it, just
a one-page document, and think about it both not only for us as an accountability metric, but also so that we can talk about this if we're ready to talk about it publicly. But just because I want, it's a big deal that we are getting this kind of stuff, and I want to be able to speak to it like accurately.
And we're practicing that conversation internally.
Right.
So we do have a Gantt chart that mapped out all of the topics, and each outcome that you see on that list has a driver, and that's either Elvin or Cynthia, and they are responsible for kind of bringing out first in this first 4-month phase, what systems, resources, and opportunities are actually going to work that implementation. And really just pretend for a moment that we have a research phase in the design process to look and see why we haven't been able to be successful in taking something at scale and implementing, and then coming back, reflecting, building data, regardless of its success or not success, right? We're going to learn something and then being able to communicate it.
Great.
So,
Yeah.
Give us a minute. I'm happy to we're practicing as a team on how to communicate.
Totally. That second part of the actualizing it, that's an iterative process. That's what you guys are doing. The initial phase of where we are up to this point of what the grant was for and what success criteria are for the grant, especially either for follow-on tranches from them or either for other grants, that should be locked in right now. And that's what I don't have. I personally don't have visibility to. I don't know if anybody else here does. That'd be great.
And sorry, these proposed outcomes, are these objectives that the school is setting for itself for its program, or is it the objectives that Mellon is setting for the school? Yeah. Okay. Great.
Specifically around subpopulation, so about 125 students in the middle school qualified for so that's the
Got it. Yeah.
And I think distinguishing between those two would be really helpful too, right? Because I think that this program could have big aspirations, but then also what is Mellon, like what are we reporting to Mellon, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to give you guys the freedom to do like what the school is doing as opposed to like us focusing on the RK Mellon, like being
helping provide support on making sure that our external funder is happy.
And then also looking for some funding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll close out this part of the discussion, but thank you both for the work that you're doing and for the presentation. And I think we have a clear request for just some simplified information that maybe we can ask you to come back next month and show us, if that's okay.
Or email us, email the board. I'll read it before. But thank you for this. This is actually very, very helpful to get it.
Okay, I'm gonna jump ahead in the agenda into some of our other business. So this is gonna be new member votes, resolution 2024-2-2115, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the school that the board membership of Ellen Romagny be approved. Ellen is here. And just as a reminder, Ellen has gone through the whole process and met with everybody, and she's already actually been quite involved with some of the things that we've been working on the construction side. So I will make that motion. Do I have a second? Okay. Any discussion? All right. All in favor? All right. Any opposed? Okay, congratulations, Ellen. So you can stand up for a second, and I'm just going to swear you in right now. So you can read this, and then you can sign it. You got, read it out loud. Yeah.
I need to read
Yeah,
it.
you want me to read that out loud? Yeah.
I, Eleanor Romagny, do solemnly swear that I will uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and the bylaws of the Environmental Charter School, and perform my duties with fidelity.
All right, congratulations. Welcome. And you can now move up to the table.
Welcome.
Okay, and next, I want to go back. I did not introduce our other guest, Shantae Falk. She's a prospective board member. I'm putting you on the spot, but do you want to just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Shantae Falk. I'm here just serving. I work with Lisa Elliott.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks, Shantae.
And she's an ECS parent.
Right.
Most important.
Okay, so in about 10 minutes or so, we have to be in our executive session for a discussion with on-ramps. So just very quickly, we'll go through committee reports. So you each have like about a minute. So executive committee met this past week. We talked about potentially forming a task force, which we're going to talk about in the executive committee. We talked about the policy review plan that Stan went over. We talked about reviewing our director and officer insurance that we have as board members, which Stan can field any questions on.
Is it adequate?
We decided it was adequate. We talked about the RK Mellon grant and the contract with Turner. And then a couple informational things I want to bring up here quickly. The board meeting next month, for the March meeting, we are going to be in the intermediate school, not here. So everybody please make a note of that. Don't come here. Intermediate school is on South Braddock Avenue. And
829 million. What's that? 829 million. I'll make sure I email it out.
it's right by the tennis courts. Okay, the June board meeting is going to be moved to June 17th because of Juneteenth was the original day. So I made the executive decision to move that meeting to June 17th. Okay, and then a few other big events coming up. So the first one is the high school graduation, June 7th. This is our first high school graduation, so it would be really great to have this is going to be a big celebration. It's going to be at the Carnegie. Would be great to have a board presence there. So if you're able to, please sign up to come to that. I'm going to be passing out, once again, our event sign-up list here. So if you haven't already, please sign up. The goal is at least 2 events per board member for the year. And then the other big event that I want to mention is the ECS State of the Union event, which is going to be March 22nd. And that's kind of a thing that I think used to happen, maybe didn't happen during COVID. Now we're doing it again. So another thing to think about signing up for, and any other events you guys can sign up for, including our new board. Okay, and then lastly, we had I sent you guys an email from a parent letting us know about this. Woodland Hills decided to stop providing transportation to our students on half days out of the blue, with no warning. Can you?
Yeah, and the connected superintendent, and they were very gracious and didn't quite understand what had gone wrong, and ultimately worked with us. And we have a great relationship with those folks. So we fully anticipate smoothing this over and getting to a resolution very quickly. And maybe you chat with parents in the interim. So I think we're in a good space. We have to tread carefully with these relationships because they're tenuous in some places, but overall, thank the Woodland Hills School District, if they're listening this evening, for working with us.
Great. Okay, governance, Stan?
The only thing I was going to say was about the directors and officers insurance. I had a prospective board member ask me about it. It's something that we haven't really talked about or reviewed, certainly most of the newer members of this board, but that protects our executives as well as board members. So John shared it with me, and I've been reviewing it, and I may do a little bit more review just to make sure it's adequate, but it exists, which is good. So if anyone has any questions about that, certainly we can talk further about that. That's all I have.
And one other thing I'll add to governance, the governance committee is working on coming up with the executive slate for next year. So we need new officers, or the same officers to stay, but if anyone here is interested in a leadership position on the board, everyone is eligible. Recognize we have a fairly young new board cohort here, but we do need people to step up and be leaders. And if you are the president, you get all kinds of amazing perks, including this drawing.
Oh, that's from the news session.
Yeah, the news session that we
That's
do.
pretty good.
This could be you guys.
All presidents.
Yeah. We should have a wall for board presidents, yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, that's what we got.
Yeah.
So this will be framed in the hallway here. And this is from one of the students, right? Ethan? Yeah, okay. Okay, so let Stan know if you're interested in a leadership position. Otherwise, he's going to maybe be coming to your house and directing you outside.
Are there directors who are rolling off of the board that are not intending to want to stay in their positions, I guess?
TBD. Yeah. Okay, education committee.
Yeah, I can be super fast because the 2 things we talked about primarily were data and innovation. So you got lots of good education about both of those. This is just administrative, but we're moving our meeting back a week in the month. And the reason that's important to the board is that we want to do more of this type of education where we can connect some of the measures that we keep talking about to like what's the story that the data tells us. So I put this call out before, but if anyone on the board wants, to dig into anything that was here tonight or just other measures about or what's happening in the student population, send them our way because we continue to want to try to present sort of these stories so that we all understand more about what's going on at the school. And obviously data is only one part of that picture, which we all heard tonight. So also understanding more about the curriculum and innovation and all of the good things happening. So that's where we are.
All right, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, finance, Megan and Matthew were not able to be here. I think Nick was going to join us online. I don't know if he's on there, but who else is on there?
I actually missed the meeting.
I'm here. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you what Matthew sent me a text. He wanted to thank Michelle for something about the field trip. I'm not sure what that was. The cleaning contract should be good. Some dialogue about that. Long-term sub should not include benefits, financial incentives only. And he said Nick should be able to speak to any updates on the middle school purchase conversation. We could save that for a little bit later, actually, Nick. And that was all that he had. Anything else from finance?
Yeah, the budget's being built currently. I mean, we're obviously got some challenges in the middle of that. Thank you to Michelle and the finance committee for doing that work. Thank you, Nick, for your work in supporting us going through that. Nick actually met with bankers this past week. We had a lot of meetings with FMB. Met that team, and it was really good to get his assessment of their efficacy and their strength as a group. But just budget's being built and summer investments being worked on, right? I know that we're looking to air condition 2 of our buildings and those projects. So that's just what's going on.
Okay, the PCO emailed their report to us. She said, here. The PCO just completed our pepperoni sale. We sold over 200 rolls that will be delivered on Friday. Blooming Bash tickets are on sale now. Visit our website to purchase them. We hope you can join us for an evening of fun at an ECS family-owned business. Our next PCO meeting is Wednesday, March 6th at 6 p.m. at the Intermediate School. Our guests will be Miss Bergman and Miss Williams. And we will be holding a used book sale at the Sustainability Fair. Look for announcements on how you can donate your gently used children's books.
We don't have a board member signed up for that PCO meeting right now. They're a lot of fun. I can attest to it. I
agree. I went to the last one.
Yeah.
So if anyone is able to go to that, that would be great. Also, I definitely encourage you guys to come to the Blooming Bash. I've been to some in the past. Used to be a big fundraiser for the PCO, always a fun event, and we haven't had it for a few years. But tickets are on sale. Okay, I think that is everything that we have before executive session.
I think PCO meeting's on Wednesday at this time.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna make a motion that we move into executive session. Somebody want to second that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all right, we're gonna take 30 seconds and then we're resuming the meeting, so.
Can I get 2 minutes?
Yes.
Or a minute and a half before we get into the.
Yeah.
Because we just want to sort of see the track.
Yeah.
As soon as everyone else is.
So, yeah, you can stop the live stream.
Can you tell if anybody's watching the live stream?
Thanks so much for coming.
I'm good.
Like this is the closest seat, so I feel very.